Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, and I thought I'd just pop in tonight just for a few minutes. As you know, we do air our broadcast across social media outlets every Wednesday night between 6:30 or I think 7 and 7:30 p.m. So, folks, I want to give you an idea of what's happening around the world, some issues that I'm going to be asking you to pay attention to because they're going to be impacting us as a country. Now, to begin with, I wouldn't be on the air at this moment unless I thought this was very, very important. And I'm sure you will agree with me that it is once I tell you what I'm going to share with you. I just got off the air with a couple of TV network stations addressing a couple of issues that we need to keep an eye on. At this hour, Israel is under attack. It looks like Hamas terrorist organizations have launched a major assault on that country. Several cities, including Jerusalem, are being victimized by rocket attacks. Now, as all this is going on, nothing much is coming out of the White House. They've been rather quiet. As all this is going on, we have a representative of the United States Congress, you know, Omar, right, who decides to trash and just distribute trash Israel, right? Blame Israel for all of these problems. Actually identifying Israelis as terrorists, and on and on and on. So my point in bringing that up is this: is this not a member of the United States Congress, a member of the government that actually runs this country? Is this not inciting violence that could lead us to war? Is this not something that has to be dealt with by the United States Congress? This person, Representative Omar, Congresswoman Omar, should be thrown out of the United States Congress. I mean, what she's stating and what she's saying is, to me, emboldening our enemies, for goodness sakes. Look, if you're an enemy of Israel, who is one of America's closest allies, then you are an enemy of the United States of America. This person should be dealt with, and dealt with quickly. Could you imagine during World War II, a United States congressional representative speaking up on behalf of Japan, on behalf of Nazi Germany? You realize what would happen to that person with regard to their stay in the United States Congress? So we need, folks, we need to mobilize. And what I mean by mobilizing is make a call, go to your telephone, go to your emails, no matter what your congressman identifies him or herself as, Republican or Democrat. Let your voice be heard known. Tell them you want this person removed from Congress. This person is anti-American. Look, I've always said, if you're anti-Israel, if you're anti any ally, strong ally of the United States of America, you're anti-American. I've never in my lifetime would believe that a member of the United States Congress would embolden our enemies. I mean, folks, this is going on. Her mouthings are going on as rockets are coming down on Israelis. We can't have this. This is unacceptable. So this is why I've come on the air, in part. There's another topic I want to bring up with regard to how we can do something about this. You know, I constantly get emails and calls from people. What can I do? This is what you can do. You could make a phone call. Now, you might think, well, my phone call is not going to count. Well, it is, folks. Believe me, it is. All these congressional representatives fear one thing. They fear your voice. They fear your vote. And if they get enough calls from around the country calling for the removal of this congressional representative, or we're going to remove them during the next election, you might be able to see some action. But we cannot remain silent, folks, as a country, when we have a member of our Congress actually condemning our ally, calling them terrorists, when the real terrorists, Hamas, Iran, and all these thugs are raining down missiles on their people. Are we next, folks? Are we next? What are we going to do? God forbid, if a terrorist strike hits here again, what are we going to do? Are we going to remain silent, or are we going to stand up and speak out? So we need to get in touch with our elected representatives. My phone calls are being made tomorrow morning to the congressional representatives and the senators in my state. It's as simple as that. And by the way, we're also on the air, which scares the living daylights out of them. And I've been on several news media outlets talking about this. But we need to mobilize, stand up and speak out, because what is happening, folks? And you know, we've said this all along on Campaign for America. Joe Biden is going to be dragging us into a bloody war. I don't know where, I don't know when, but we're getting close to it. It could be the Mideast, or it could be with the country of the next topic that I'm going to speak to you about. You see, I want to share with you the pattern of what's going on here. Now, we all know that there was a cyber attack on a gas pipeline. We've all been affected here on the East Coast. I just got off the air with a major news organization and shared with them that this did happen before, not to the magnitude that we see it now, not by this particular country I'm going to talk about, but it did happen. It happened during the time Jimmy Carter was president of the United States. He was the guy that came into office and said, I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to take care of America. And what happened, folks? There ended up being oil and gas embargoes. We had the Mideast rising up against us. We had hostages. Hostages were taken by the Iranian government. Yeah, all under the leadership of the guy that Joe Biden just took a picture with. Remember that, folks? Joe Biden took a picture with Jimmy Carter just about a week ago at Jimmy Carter's house. And so when I saw the gas lines on the news in the southern part of our country, when I'm driving around my state here in New Jersey, seeing the gas prices climb, I'm thinking, here we go again. Nobody seems to have learned from the Carter days. You don't appease your enemies. You can't do that. You don't back down from your enemies. And another thing is, you don't provoke your enemies. Now, I tweeted out something earlier, and I'm getting some interesting responses. So I'm going to ask you the questions, or at least bring something to your attention. When Donald Trump was president of the United States in office, all right, when he was in office, can we agree, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or whatever, can we agree that the Middle East was pretty much stabilized? We didn't have many problems there, right? No problems at all. He had agreed that he was going to put an end to all these endless wars, and he began to do that. There were no problems with fuel, right? No problems with gas or oil. Why? Because he was building pipelines. He was making America independent of all these other countries. He was also setting up business government partnerships to build an infrastructure that would include all of our cyber mechanisms that would prevent what? That would prevent a cyber attack against a gas line, an oil refinery, an electrical grid, and on and on and on. So President Trump knew full well, look, they could criticize him all they want. This guy's a businessman. He knew exactly what he was doing and where he was going with a lot of the programs that he was building and putting together. Well, Joe Biden gets into office and he just puts an end to all this, stops the pipeline up near the Canadian border. He throws rocks, if you will, and it certainly is a metaphor, right? But he's spitting in the face of the Israeli government. By his actions, he's showing how weak the United States is, so weak that the communist Chinese decided to fly over Taiwanese airspace, decided to send their carrier groups into the South Pacific. So weak, folks, so weak that he decided to poke Vladimir Putin in the face, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Now, I said just about a month or so ago, you do not poke the bear in the face. And the reason why you don't do that is the bear is going to bite one day. Now, let's do a little bit of a comparison. President Trump was criticized over what they called his coziness to Vladimir Putin. Folks, what President Trump was doing. Now, look, I take this from an individual, namely me, who worked in U.S. military intelligence my whole career in the Navy. So I certainly know what I'm talking about, and I know about diplomacy, and I know how to deal with, at least to some degree, with some of these foreign adversaries. So President Trump decides, you know what, I will just go a little bit here and a little bit there, meaning I'll be a little bit more diplomatic with Vladimir Putin, and we'll talk. We'll become friends. Now, you don't become friends to a point that you trust the guy 100%, but you become friends to the point that the guy will do what? Respect you. So Donald Trump took Hillary Clinton's button, that silly respect button, put it in the trash, and he made sure that the word respect or the word reset, the word reset is gone, and the word respect is now a word that Vladimir Putin would see and understand. That's why, folks, we have not had any problems during the entire Trump administration with Vladimir Putin. So here's what happens, and I'm leading up to something. So here's what happens. Joe Biden sticks his finger in Vladimir Putin's face on what issue? On the Ukrainian issue. He makes sure that Putin gets a message that if you, Vladimir Putin, send your Russian troops into Ukraine, you will be met with the full force of the United States government. What full force, folks? What full force? Biden also sends his emissaries, and even himself, I understand, assured the Ukrainian president that, look, if those Russian troops cross that border, we got your back. With who, folks? I really mean it. Look, I'm a hawk by nature. I believe when we go to war, we should go to war to annihilate our enemy, to destroy them forever, get rid of them. You know, I'm not one of these guys that believe, and what really bothers me during the Vietnam War, well, you know, you do targeting, all right? Our guys would do targeting, and you know where the targets would go first? To the lawyers. Oh, we can't bomb this place because we'll hurt that building. We can't bomb that bridge, bomb half a bridge, bomb a quarter of this building. That's how Vietnam was managed. It was managed by a bunch of politicians sitting behind a desk. We won the Iraqi war because it was managed by the military. We won the Iraqi war because we did use the full force of the United States military to annihilate Saddam Hussein. In my view, we should have gone a little further and annihilated the Iranian regime, but I wasn't president at the time, and probably, you know what, it would be looked at as a warmonger. But now that we are dealing with, think about this, folks, now that we are dealing with a very powerful Russian government, powerful, folks, Vladimir Putin over the past few years has been building and building and building his military. So now you got Joe Biden sticking his finger in the sore spot of Vladimir Putin, and that sore spot is the Crimea, is Ukraine, making it known to him that if he decides to cross the border into Ukraine, then the United States will certainly watch the backs of the Ukrainian government. And I go back to the question, with what and with who? So here's Vladimir Putin's answer just a few weeks ago to Joe Biden. And I remember this, folks. I remember this clearly, that when the press releases came out from Moscow, there was this headline, Mr. Biden, do you hear me? Mr. Biden, are you listening? That was from Vladimir Putin, folks. Are you listening, Joe? Do you hear me, Joe? Because here comes your answer. The answer, folks, was 100,000 Russian troops right on the Russian-Ukrainian border. 100,000 Russian troops in full battle gear and with the insignias on their tanks, on armored personnel carriers, on their aircraft that signify an invasion. That was his answer. But he didn't invade. He sent the message that I can do what I want when I want to do it and stay out of the affairs of Russia. Now, I happen to agree with that, folks. I am tired of seeing American men and women at a young age get killed on foreign soil. I am tired of our young people being brought to foreign countries like they have been in Afghanistan for 15 years or so. All that blood was shed for what? For what, folks? President Trump set up a timetable. That timetable was we're out of there by May 1st. Joe Biden decides to breach that agreement, extend it till September 11th, and now what's happening? What's happening in Afghanistan? They're starting to rain bombs down on those people, and they're probably going to execute thousands of them. Had Joe Biden kept the word of this government, perhaps they would have come to the table. I don't know. But that war should have ended a long time ago, and Donald Trump was ending it. Donald Trump was ending our presence in Syria. What are we doing in Syria, folks? Do you know who's in Syria? Not only the Syrian army, but the Russian army. There we go. We're poking the bear in the face again. So now here's what happens. So Biden continues to bully the bear, but the bear isn't bullied. He don't understand that, Joe Biden. He doesn't understand that he's dealing with the former director of the Soviet Union's KGB. This guy, Vladimir Putin, is a tough guy. You don't push him around. Trump knew you don't push him around, but also Vladimir Putin knew you don't push Trump around. So you see, two guys, they respected each other. But Putin now knows he could just slap Joe Biden around anytime he wants. and he's not going to do anything. A lot of words, folks, a lot of words. So now here's what happens. In my view, all right, in my view, because there's no solid evidence yet, and I said that on the news a few minutes ago, but I'm pretty much convinced, based on what I'm hearing and reading, is that the Russians, vis-a-vis the Russian government, probably out of Moscow, was given the okay to shut down the Colonial Pipeline. And that's why we have that problem right now on the East Coast. They're running out of gas in certain cities. Gas lines are lined up in gas stations all over the East Coast, especially in the South, and the gas prices are going up. Why did they do this? Why would Russia do that? After all these years of being pretty much at peace with the United States, why on earth would they do that? Now, of course, there are people who are going to say, well, we do not have any proof yet, as Joe Biden already said, that it is the Russian government. Joe, you better wake up and you better realize something. You're dealing with a powerful enemy. You're not dealing with somebody that is just going to speak war. This is somebody that's going to make war, and you're going to cause a war. If you think these people are going to sit back, and when I say these people, the tough Russian army is going to sit back and take garbage from you, well, I got news for you. They ain't going to happen. That's not going to happen. And I got to tell you, folks, a lot of the people in this country and around the world know that. Do you notice, folks? Think about this. Do you notice that there hasn't been much comments from our NATO allies regarding Russia? Do you notice that, folks? Do you notice that no one in NATO has really spoken out very loudly against the disruption of our pipeline, our gas pipeline? You notice that, folks? Do you notice that Germany is still working with the Russians on their gas pipeline from Russia to Germany? Do you notice that hasn't stopped? They're smart. Those NATO leaders are smart. They don't want to end up in a war with Russia. They know who they're dealing with. Now, I'm not saying that we should back down and we should be afraid of Russia. No, I'm saying we should stand up to them. We should be tough, and we should let Putin know, just like Donald Trump let him know, that, you know, well, something, Vladimir, you cross this line and you're going to see the might of the United States government. As Ronald Reagan did, folks. Ronald Reagan made it very, very clear to the Soviet Union, very clear to Mikhail Gorbachev, very clear. You get out of line, you're going to meet with the full force of the United States military. That's the way it works, folks. It's respect. It's respect, respect, respect. And Vladimir Putin, President Xi, the Iranians, and now you got Hamas. They don't care. They don't have any respect for us anymore. They're not afraid of us anymore. And I think part and part, Israel, the government there last week, you know, some people said that they were surprised when the Israeli government sent out a news release or a memo telling Washington, Biden, to stay out of our affairs. We don't want you to get involved. Let me tell you why they did that, folks. Because if Biden gets involved in this fight between Israel and Hamas, who do you think Biden is going to back up? What do you think Biden is going to do, folks? He is going to, let's say, lean a little bit towards Palestine, the Palestinians. He's going to lean a little bit more towards Hamas, the terrorists. Why? Because he's got the support, Biden, the support, in my view, and I'm entitled to my view. By the way, those Democrats who troll me and those socialists and communists, folks, you wouldn't believe that they're actually watching, doing what? They're calling Twitter. They're calling YouTube, like no doubt they did last week, to get us shut down. All right. And what does YouTube do? And we'll talk a little bit about more tomorrow night. The broadcast last Wednesday night, we had with Tanya Harding on and John McCann with regard to the vaccine. They took us off. They put us down. They removed that broadcast from their platform. Why? Because according to them, we violated their community standards. How? Where? When? So these communists, these socialists, they're active, but they're not going to shut us up. They're not going to shut us down, because we will find a way to get the message out for the American people. But my point is this, folks. My point is this, is that we have said all along that we're going to be dragged into a war. And it's a shame, because we have a guy in the White House that doesn't have a clue. We have an administration there that likes to bully these countries to a point where does he think that Putin's going to back off? Does he think that the Russians are not going to respond aggressively? Now, I believe they did. I believe that this cyber attack on that Colonial Pipeline was in fact an aggressive response from Russia. Now, you're never going to hear Moscow admit it. It's like, folks, are you ever going to hear anybody, any corporation from China admit that they are part of the Chinese Communist Party? Isn't going to happen. Same thing, it isn't going to happen with Russia. So what we need to do, folks, we need to do very, very simple, is to start actively engage in the political process. Because I'm always asked, and I was asked earlier today, what can we do? What can we do about Russia and China and Iran? What we can do is speak out. Speak out, folks. I mean it. We need to start that conversation in our homes, in the workplace, wherever we are. We need to make those phone calls. We need to write those letters. Listen, we have the most powerful tool in the world right now, the internet. Look what we're doing here. We need to just start messaging back and forth and start to rally the troops together. Now, you might say, well, what do we do? All right, we got the troops rallied together. What do we do? You know what we do, folks? We remove from office every single person in office that does not stand on the Constitution of the United States of America. How's that? Every single in office that does not believe in that flag that you see behind me. That's Republican as well as Democrat. Because as far as I tell you, I'm fed up with all of them. I really am, folks. I'm fed up with all of them. They need to stand up like our representatives stood up in the 1930s and 40s and 50s and 60s. They need to stand up like men like Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump. Need I go on? Even FDR. All right, FDR, great president. All right, Democrat, but a good president. My point is this. We've got to stop, folks. We, the people, have to send a message to our leaders to stop looking at our problems as a Democrat versus Republican problem. This is an American problem. It's a national security problem. We cannot afford anymore to divide this house called America. The Bible says a house divided does not stand. And folks, I'll tell you, we're standing on shaky ground. And until that message gets deep within the heart, soul, and spirit of the American people, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, we're on our way out, folks. I'm telling you. Now, I don't believe that we're that far under that we're going to collapse. But what I do believe is that you and I have a job to do. Now, let me just address this to the Democrats of the JFK wing and the FDR wing. The Democrats of JFK and FDR. I know you're still out there. I know you watch our broadcast. I know as a matter of fact that you are in agreement with a lot of the positions the Republican Party of the 21st century is taking. And I know you're American patriots, but you've allowed these nuts, you've allowed these crazy people like Omar, these socialists and these communists to take over your party. You've allowed that to happen. You've got to take your party back. Look at, you won't hear another Republican leader than me probably say, we do need your help. We need you to step up and clean house. Because I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be busy cleaning house of the Republican Party. Because we are no angels either. Both of us, Democrats and Republicans, we've got people in our party that don't belong there. We've got leaders in our party that aren't leading. All they're interested in is to serve themselves instead of the people. They're interested in their own political careers and personal agenda rather than in the careers of the American people who are being lost every single day as a result of these ridiculous dictatorial rules and regulations that are in violation of the Constitution of the United States. So you see, at the end of the day, American Democrats, if you will, of JFK and FDR, at the end of the day, my Republican friends, we're all in the same boat. So if we're all in the same boat, and I've said this over and over again, there are Democrats who are conservative, who are moderates. There are Democrats who are American patriots and love this flag as we do. But all of us, we really have to think about two words that were branded into us by Donald Trump. America first. America first, America first. Ronald Reagan, he lit up that shining city upon a hill. It took a long time for that torch to get passed to another leader, and that was Donald Trump. So, folks, they could criticize Trump all they want. They could say he's this, he's that. I don't care. What I care about is that we had a president, at least we had two in my lifetime, Ronald Reagan, and we had Donald Trump, who stood up for the American people, who advocated America first. But now we're suffering from a leader, if you want to call him a leader, or the lack thereof, who has decided to put America second, third, fourth, and fifth, who has decided to be nice with President Xi of China, who has decided to stick his finger in the face of a strong opposition, if you will. I'm not going to call Russia an enemy at this point. Well, if they committed the cyber attack, then they're an enemy. But who provoked them, folks? Just think, please, think about what happened here. Things were quiet when President Trump was in office around the world. Things were quiet. The Middle East was stabilized. The economy was strong. Gas prices were going down. Remember, $1.65 a gallon? That was during the Trump administration. We had jobs by the millions coming back. The economy is strong. Our 401ks, folks, it reminded me of the Reagan days. 3 cars in every lot, 2 TVs. I mean, people were in this country were living well. The minorities said the same thing. The minorities are saying, gee, we got entrepreneurship in the minority communities that are beginning to grow. Small businesses. Look, I could go on and on and on and compare the two. But the most dangerous road we're going down at this hour is a road that is leading to socialism and communism. It's got to stop. And when you hear a United States congressional representative like that, Omar, publicly, unabashed, that speaks out against Israel and calls the Israeli government a terrorist government and just gives Hamas and those terrorist thugs a pass, man, we've got a problem. We've got a serious problem. And when you hear that, the only person that I read today in Congress, in the Senate, speaking out against her was Ted Cruz. I'm sure there are many more, but maybe they're not speaking loud enough. So here's what I think should be done. And I said this very clearly. There should be an immediate, like tomorrow, there should be an immediate session of the United States Congress and articles of impeachment filed against her. Right? Don't you think so, folks? They were quick to do this to President Trump, right? When they accused him of inciting violence in Washington. And I'll say to my last breath that he was innocent. He didn't incite that violence, but they accused him, right? And they went ahead with all these phony impeachment hearings that went nowhere. Well, now we've got somebody in Congress, Omar, who has decided to publicly take a stand against the United States government, because it is the United States government that supports the nation of Israel. So tell me, folks, who's the enemy? Who is the enemy? Was it Pogo who said, I have met the enemy and he is us? So, folks, I've come on tonight, just these few minutes, to share with you my thoughts on these two issues, because you're going to turn on the news tonight, you're going to turn on the news tomorrow, and you're going to hear about Russia, and you're going to hear about Israel. So I'm going to ask you, take action. I always say, put your faith to work. I always say there's so much power in prayer, folks. Believe me, you've heard me say it over and over again. It's nothing new. I really believe we are in a period of time in our lives in this country where we are not just fighting a political warfare, but we are fighting spiritual warfare. I'll tell you, we are fighting an evil like I've never seen before in my lifetime over the skies of this country. Listen, I've seen a lot. I've seen war. I've seen people die. I've seen people killed. I've seen bloodshed all over the place. I've seen it, folks. But I've never seen such a dark evil over this country as I see it at this point in time in my life. But we can do something about it. And we must start in the house of God. Now, I'm not saying you have to run to church or temple or wherever you go. In the house of God, I'm talking about the house in your heart, soul, and spirit. I mean that, folks. I don't say that lightly. I'm not a preacher. I'm not an evangelist. I'm a regular person like you who was called of God to get involved in our government and politics. But I'll tell you, folks, there's power in prayer. Now, we pray for wisdom and for guidance. I shared on the news the other day, there's the book of Psalms, I believe the 25th Psalm, around verse 6. Show me thy ways, O Lord. Teach me thy paths. And that has to be our prayer. Show us the way, O Lord. Teach us thy path, and let us folks have enough wisdom to go down that path. And let's do what we must do to fight this evil. Once we start at the table of God, then we go to our table of our family, and then we do what? We put our faith to work. The Bible says faith without works is dead. So we got to put our faith to work. I want to do everything I could, folks, everything I could as the years go on. As the years go on, and I've shared with you, look at, I'm like on my last mile here, okay? Done a lot, doing a lot. I intend to do a lot. But when I talk about the last mile, I'm talking about, as you get older, you want to make sure that as you count the years ahead of you, you want to make every single day count. And for me, and I'm sure for many of you, you make every single day count if you could do something to make life better for future generations of Americans and those who yearn for liberty and freedom around the world. That is how important this is. That is why I've come on the air tonight, just for a few minutes, to ask you just to think about what I shared with you. My goodness, you may not be able to do X, Y, and Z, but I know you can pray. I know you could talk to God. I know you could talk to your friends and neighbors and say, look, maybe what we ought to do is pray. Go to your church, light a candle, seek the Lord, all right, for comfort and peace, and then seek him to show you his way and to teach you his path, you see? And then he will, because he always answers. And then as we put our faith to work and we go vote, we get involved in the political process and we get rid of all this evil and send the Chinese Communist Party and all those who support the ideology of Lenin, of Stalin, and of Marx. We do what Reagan did to the Soviet Communist Party. We give them a seat in the ash bin of history. And let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. It'll be you and it'll be me that will allow our children and grandchildren to do what? To let freedom ring in their time, because in our time, we did our best. We did what we had to do what? To let freedom ring. Now is our time. Thank you so much for listening to me. I really didn't intend to come on tonight, but I tell you, this was bugging me. I knew I had to come on to share this with you. So please share this message tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m., folks. Got a great guest tomorrow night. Yep, that's Wednesday night. We're going to be talking about a woman who is responsible, get this, for saving over 50,000 babies' lives. Heartbeat Miami is the name of the organization that she directs. Heartbeat Miami. Imagine that. You talk about God's work, 50,000 babies' lives she has saved. Tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. here on Campaign for America. Visit our website, campaignforamerica.com. Thank you. God bless you. And remember, no matter what's going on, folks, around us, he gave us a dark winter. Joe Biden gave us a dark winter. Our prayers are going to bring a beautiful, beautiful sunlight from the kingdom of God on that shining city upon a hill called the United States of America. Always was, is now, and always will be. Have a great evening.